Isn't it too early for Mythos? There, no.
Never too early. Never too early for Mythos.
Yes.
Dude. Today on the Zen Perry Project, we have Labros of 1,000 Mods, the Chiliomodi based band. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having us and having me personally today. It's a great honor and can't wait to talk about music and drums.
Hell yeah. Well, let's get right into it. So you're from Chiliomodi, and that's a small town. It's like 1,600 people, something like
Exactly,
that.
but to be completely honest, only one guitarist has been born and raised in Chiliomodi, George. As you see, states left, the guy with usually wears a hat. He was born and raised in Chiliomodi. The rest of the band were coming from different villages all around. And Danny, the singer, and me were born and raised in Athens. But every summer we're spending like all our summer vacations near Chiliomodi, so we know each other since we're really young children.
Wow. And what is that area like for somebody who's never been there? I've never been to Greece. What is it like for outsiders?
The whole area is like 1 hour, 1 hour and 15 minutes from Athens. It's a little bit souther and a little bit more west. And actually, the whole area is surrounded by sea. But Chiliomodi is a little bit more on the top of the near mountain. But the area, there are a lot of nice beaches. There's a lot of people from Athens go for summer vacations, and the main city, which is Corinth, it's like 40 or 50,000 people, which is the main city of the area.
Cool. And so you guys, I guess you all come from different villages when you're first starting out. You started in 2006. How did you all meet? How did you all come together? And what made you want to start playing music together?
Actually, we know each other since we're really young. I personally know George since I was 2 and he was 4 years old. We were spending our vacation on the same beach in the same village. So, starting playing together on the beach, it turned out to be a friendship of life, from on our whole life. And when we were like around 8 to 10 years old, we started listening to metal music and rock music. Of course, we were lucky that we had some older, let's say, siblings or cousins that were giving us some tapes back in the day. And actually, our main passion, when we realized this is the music that we like to listen to, we became obsessed with this. And after a lot of years, George already has started playing guitar, and he told me, "Why don't you play drums?" And he bought me a pair of sticks. And we already knew Danny, which he was already playing some guitar and singing. Then we met John, so we know each other since we're really young, and actually our love for music as listeners turned out to be love to play also music.
That's so cool. So I guess your guys' families or cousins or siblings were kind of giving you this music.
No.
Um,
Of course.
yeah, that's really cool. I mean, so it seems like there's just a musical scene around there. So I guess you started playing drums. What was your first drum set? How did you like it? Were you playing at your parents' house?
First of all, the first time we played music with George, when he bought me the pair of sticks, we used cardboards and some cups from pots, to use as cymbals. So it was like, I think we played Paranoid and Breaking the Law. And this was my first drum set, cardboards and pots. But the next winter, when I said to my parents, I want to start, playing drums, I was really lucky that my father, when he was a teenager, he had a really good friend that he teach him a little bit of drums. So he find it as a really nice idea to buy me as a gift a good back in the day good drum set for a beginner drummer, and he bought me it was the cheap Tama. It was called Swing Star. It was like around 2000. Tama Swing Star, and this was my first kit. And to be honest, it was more than a beginner drummer should have, for sure.
Yeah, that was like my first real nice drum set was like a Tama. Yeah, I had a Tama Rockstar.
Yeah, nice, man.
Yeah, 2 bass drums, 3 rack toms, 2 floor toms. It was way too big. Like,
Okay.
that's super cool. I mean, so you guys were driven to be a band from the start. Did you want to play shows? What was that whole thing like? Did you just what was your plan?
We started playing a lot of covers, as almost every musician starts. And I think I was when we started, I was around 16, and I was in high school. So after we did something like 10 or 15 rehearsals, a friend of mine from school, he had a garage, and he said, "Okay, let's do a party for my birthday, and you can come and play with your band." And he played also with his band that also they just were starting. And I think we played like 5 or 6 covers and one original song that we had back then. And from that, this was not Thousand Mods, it was were called State Enema, inspired by Blink. Then we made another band called Stoneroid, and we started playing also some stoner rock and heavy rock covers. Also some Metallica songs, a lot of the early influences of everybody listening to rock and metal. And that summer, I think summer of 2004, we did like 2 or 3 shows in Chiliomodi. There was a guy that had one of the nicest bars to go and hang out, and he said, "Okay, guys, why don't you play a gig here?" And this was our first, let's say, proper gig with the audience. And from that on, we finalized the lineup of Thousand Mods in 2006, and directly started playing as many shows as we could.
Yeah, what were your friends and those very first shows that you played? What did your friends think of it? Were you guys good? Did they like you? Or were they wanting you to play more?
I think we're shitty as hell, but they were really they really loved us. So, and we were also young, so we didn't have so much experience of big live shows. So they were thinking maybe that we're really cool playing, trying to play rock music.
Yeah. What were some of the first shows that you went to? Like, where would you see like a big rock show back then?
I was really lucky when I was like 10 years old or 11 that my parents took me to Rolling Stones. They were on tour for Bridges to Babylon tour, which was, I think, one of the biggest stadium tours back then. And I was really lucky that my parents really wanted to go and took me with them. And it was, a mind explosion for me, being with 70,000 people and watching such a legendary band.
Yeah. Was that in Athens probably?
Yeah, Athens.
Yeah. Wow, that's super cool. What do you think of Charlie Watts drumming?
I really love it, man. It's like one of the most stable and pocket and 100% supporting the music drumming that I've listened to.
I completely agree. No more, no less than it needs. That's
Exactly.
That's perfect rock, What are some of your favorite drummers? Like, what do you when you're kind of like looking for inspiration, or who were some of your favorite drummers that you're trying to like emulate, and what did you like about them?
Okay, I have thought about this a lot, and there are too many drummers, through my life that I get stuck on. But I made a list in my mind regarding the decade, so I can start. I will do something like 60s. I will cheat a little bit and I will say John Bonham, although he started really late 60s, but I will do it just to put Bill Ward in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
I would do Dave Lombardo in the 80s for sure. I think the 90s should only be, for me, I mean, Dave Grohl is maybe, for me, the best drummer that happened in the 90s. And later on, getting in my generation, I would say Ilan Rubin is maybe my favorite from my generation of drummers.
I completely agree. He's amazing. I've seen him a bunch of times. He's such a powerhouse.
Man, I haven't seen him live, unfortunately, but I have seen all his videos and I have listened to a lot of live shows and recordings. He managed to have so good control and so good, everything on his hands is so good control, but at the same time, he hits like a monster. Which I really love drummers hitting hard, for sure.
Yeah, and he does the open-handed technique, so he's like
Yeah.
it's always over the head. And man, I think he's really underrated because I talked to other drummers about him, and they're like, "Who?" I'm like, "How have you not heard of him? He's so good."
Uh, I checked a pic of a picture of you, and you have a Q drum set.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Yeah,
own one?
I have a key drum set. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. This was how I introduced to Ilan Rubin. I saw the first video of Q drums, and he was playing a set, and I said, "Oh my God, what a perfect set and what a perfect drummer!" And this is how I learned about him, and also Q drums, which is I think one of the greatest kits around for sure.
Oh yeah, mine's made out of copper. It's so fun to play. It's like it's like playing in a cave. It's so big sounding.
Nice one.
It's incredible. But
It is in my bucket list at some point to acquire one. Unfortunately, we lost the founder and the main engineer of Q Drums some months ago. But I believe from this kind of small high-end companies, it's probably the best.
yeah, and so many people love them, and they're definitely there. Other people that work there were just as intertwined in it. So I believe they're still making stuff. But yeah, it was pretty sad to hear that he died of cancer pretty quickly. I believe Jeremy, I believe is his name. Yeah,
Yeah, Jeremy was.
yeah. I got to meet him when I had him make my drum set. I saved up so much money for that thing, and I'm so glad. It's one of my favorite things I've ever purchased.
Nice one.
It's in California, which is 3,000 miles away from here. So I need to go get it at some point. Yeah, that's incredible. So what was your first plan as a band? Did you think you were going to be touring around? Did you think you were going to be playing shows when you first started, or did you just want to play? I mean, you've been to America. You've you've toured across different countries. Did you think this was something that was going to happen? Was this your guys' goal?
To be completely honest, as all young and starting musicians, everyone has big dreams, becoming big, touring around, play shows, etc. But for Thousand Modes, our main mindset was to do everything one step at a time. So when we made the band, we started playing some shows locally around Corinthos. Then we started trying to play a bigger show in Athens, play in Thessaloniki, and other big cities of Greece. And we said, okay, we have some like 5 songs. Let's record a demo in order, to move on. This was MySpace days, like 2006, 2007. And for us, it was really helpful having a community, meeting other Greek bands that we couldn't meet without internet and MySpace, and actually being part of a small, really into heavy rock and grunge and stoner rock music, a team of people that really love this music and want to make it bigger, in Greece. And from that on, because all the Greek bands, their main dream is to make a debut album. We are talking about back in the day that it was not so easy to do it. It was not, there were a lot of bands that were never getting out of playing covers and having their own songs. And there were bands that were not, they couldn't even afford a proper recording for an album. So step by step, after we played a lot of shows and had already a demo and an EP, we say, okay, let's record our debut album. We want it to be as good as possible. We talked with a producer, a legendary producer from USA in our kind of music, Billy Anderson. He has recorded Sleep, Neurosis, Melvins, almost all the 90s scene of the heavy music. He was really kind enough to visit Greece to record us in my home in a non-studio environment. And after we had the album ready, we said, okay, let's book our first European tour. And from 2011 on, we got addicted on touring, and actually we believe, all in the band believe that the only way to succeed, not to succeed, to move forward in today's music industry is to play as much as possible. You can have the best social media, you can have the best Spotify, the best, I don't know, song or whatever, but after, it's not easy for people to fall in love with your music if they haven't seen you live.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that, you know, it happens to be the most fun thing to do as well.
For sure. It gets tiring with the years, but yeah, it's the most fun for sure. Yeah. I hate studio, to be honest. I prefer being on stage for sure.
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk about that. So what was it? Were you self-trained, or did you have somebody teaching you how to play drums?
I have, most of the time I have been self-trained, but I have done some, unfortunately, my first ever experience when I started playing drums, I visit a conservatorium, let's say, in Athens, and my first drum teacher was not the best one, and because he was I don't know if maybe he was really good, but for me at this point of time was not the appropriate, because he was more focused. Let's say we were doing Agostini, quarter notes, half notes, whatever, 60 notes on the snare drum, like for 6 months. This was how I started playing drums. And I wanted to play the Black Sabbath and Metallica songs. So, you know, it was not the best idea to follow this kind of curriculum. After that, I was really lucky. From Corinth comes one of the most well-known Greek drummers, George Kollias. Probably you know him. He's maybe the fastest drummer in the world. He's a legend in the metal scene, and he's one of the coolest guys I have ever met. And I started doing some lessons with him, but unfortunately, it was the time that he was starting playing in Nile. So he was away touring like 8 or 10 months per year. So, you know, the lessons were like happening once in 3 months or whatever. And from that on, I didn't have any courses for many, many years. I started again taking lessons in 2018. And I have changed 2 or 3 drummers, 2 or 3 teachers. At the moment, I do more like, every time there is no, you know, a plan. It's like more like I want to focus on this, and I talk with my friend who is also my teacher, and he gives me some exercises. It's more like seminar rather than lessons at the moment.
Yeah, because you're going to be working on it anyway. Yeah.
Excuse me?
You're going to be working on it anyway. You know, it's something that you actually want to do. So you're getting like little tips from another drummer. That makes sense.
Yeah, man. And for me, quarantine, although it fucked our lives, it fucked our plan. We canceled like 120 shows in 2020. At least it gave me the time to be at my place and actually focusing on practicing and having an everyday practice, even on the pad. But it made me, for the first time in my life, have this mentality of focusing on practice. And it helped me do it as a habit. And now it's like I practice almost every day, even for 20 minutes, you know. And this has helped me a lot in a lot of ways. Like from tempo wise, I was like the whole time like this, and now practicing only with metronome for so many years, it has stabilized me a little bit more. My hands are always in a kind of warmed situation, and so, you know, it's. But I think the biggest gain is the mentality that going on the drum set and not just fooling around, but focusing on what I want to achieve and move a little bit forward every time.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you mentioned not liking being in the studio. But I mean, your guys' records, they sound like your live shows, which is so cool. So how did you keep it fun in the studio, and like what were your first experiences with recording in the studio, and why didn't you really like it?
My first experience was in 2006, recording our first demo that actually we called it then Blank Reality EP. And this was one of my worst experiences in my life. as till then we were playing, we were having so much fun playing, rehearsing and playing some live shows, but I have never played with metronome till then. I was, this was my biggest mistake of starting playing drums without playing with metronome. And when I arrived at the studio, even we started with the simplest and, smooth, maybe the easiest song from 5 songs, and I couldn't stay on the beat for more than a meter. So this fucked with my mind, it fucked with my nerves, and actually didn't enjoy it at all. From that moment on, of course, I have played more with metronome, so it's easier. But the main thing that bothers me with studio is that whatever you do, when you push the button and it's over, And every time, this is the worst part for, I think musicians have 2 different problems. First of all is that you can never listen actually your band playing live. And for a drummer especially, you can never be in the crowd and know how you sound and how your band sounds live. Of course, you can record it, can have a video, but you never feel the real experience. And the second thing is that when you finish whatever recording, it's done. You cannot undone anything. It's out there, and every time you listen to your record, you say, "Oh, I wish I could do that better. I wish I had a better snare here, or whatever." And this is what still I have worked a lot in my mind for this. But I think even Pink Floyd, after Dark Side of the Moon, I'm sure they were listening to something and say, "Oh, I wish I could change that." Probably.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's that's why I love playing live shows, is because like once you're done, and as long as you're having fun, it's usually fun for other people. But yeah, recording could be definitely a pain in the ass, and it's a very sterile environment.
Yeah. It's like it's not rock and roll at all. I mean, it's really, really difficult to make a recording be a rock and roll situation. It's, as you said, really in a box.
There's nobody screaming your name, and there's nobody moshing around. It's just you and some guy sitting on their phone, and like you're expected to make it sound like a big show. Yeah. What other bands were you first starting out with, and because I don't know a lot of Greek bands. Is there any shout outs you want to do to other bands that you've maybe worked with in the scene who are playing right now that you?
Yeah, of course, man.
Yeah, friends.
Greek scene was already started boiling, around 2005, 2006. There were some really cool heavy rock bands and grunge bands, and of course we had some older bands like Night Stalker. Night Stalker are playing since I think 1989 or 88. I mean, they were playing this kind of heavy rock music even before Monster Magnet or Chaos, They were at the same time with them. And also Last Drive, one of the first ever garage rock bands to be in Greece and playing so good music. And from our generation, there was an era with Planet of Zeus, Liquid Dust, The Police, bands from our generation that were starting to grow an underground scene in Athens. This thing exploded around 2013, 2014. All the bands that stayed active from that era got really big in the Greek audience, playing in front of thousands of people and not being so much underground, let's say, still. And at this moment, around 2014, let's say, I think every month there was a new band coming from Athens or around Greece that was recorded a really good album and was ready to go on tour in Europe and be part of something much bigger than a small underground local scene.
Yeah.
So I think the progression of the Greek underground is a study. It could be a study case from such a small country and with not at all rock kind of history. We don't have a lot of rock bands in the 70s. We have like one or two that were really successful or made real good music. And the dominant music is the traditional Greek, or the pop Greek music. I think it's a really miracle that the last decade had produced the Greek underground had produced so good records, and so many good records.
Yeah. And I mean, it must have been so cool to see this scene kind of bubbling up, and like now there is a rock scene. Now people are starting to notice it, and Greece is on the map. It must be cool to be part of that. What was your family think of like the whole rock band thing when you guys are first starting out? I mean, your parents were supportive, obviously, but like, what did the rest of your family think about that?
I think that everybody, as most of the Greek families, uh, I think that they believe that it was just a phase doing our hobby and what we love more, and this was our hobby. When this thing started to turn out to be also our job, let's say, and having this kind of lifestyle, it's good that everyone from all the band member families were really supportive, and realizing that we do something that has future, and we do it kind of good.
Yeah, I think you did really good. So,
Thank you, man.
So kind of you were already off to the races. You were already playing shows for a while by the time the economic crash hit in 2008. What was Greece like at that time? What changed about it, and what was it like living through that kind of economic crash, and what did it mean for your music?
I think that for our generation, we are all around 35 to 38 in the band. The economical crisis made us realize, not only us, but all our generation, made realize how fake was the way of Greek living back then. Till then, everybody, as also the band members, the plan was get in the university, take a degree, do a master's degree, and then you can make like a ton of money and be the best in the town, etc. And this was the main mindset for our generation. And when economical crisis hit, people started to understand that this is not something that will happen. You will never be sure about your future, even if you have the best degree or the best experience. Probably you will not make enough money to survive at all. And I think this was the main reason that people started giving more time to what they love to do rather of what they were supposed to do for the society. That's why a lot of people starting playing more music. People starting. There was also a boom. I think that was the main reason for the boom in our scene, that people starting playing again music with a lot of passion, and also a lot of fans started listening more to Greek bands and not expecting the big US name to come and this is the main gig I would go for my summer. This was the main mentality before the economical crisis. And but also regarding the everyday life, to be completely honest, back then I was like 21, 22, and I was a student in university, and it was really tough regarding money. I mean, you could not easily go for a drink and have more than one. It was not easy to have an everyday lifestyle of being cool and don't not worry about expenses and costs.
Yeah, the rock and roll lifestyle is actually kind of expensive. I think people don't realize that.
For sure.
Yeah, bars all the time.
We're really lucky that all of us had side jobs, and we could support and we were earning money to throw it to the band, do some recordings, buy some gear. We're really lucky to at least to have a side job and still living with our parents. So, having not so much expenses. So we're like investing our money in the band.
What were you guys doing for work? What was the band? What were you doing for work back in the day?
I have done a lot of different jobs because I was studying applied mathematics. I was doing private math lessons to children. I was also working as a engineer in a survey engineer school. You go to the field and you take all the measurements that to put it on the map. Me and Danny were playing DJs at a really famous rock club in downtown Athens. George was playing DJ in a town near Corinth for many years. We're doing jobs that were giving us some money and also were allowing us to be able to go on tour, live for 30 days and come back and still have the job, which is not common.
Yeah, no, totally. That's like the dream thing. I think that's why a lot of people end up as like bartenders and stuff like that. It's because things that you can leave and come back to. And but wow, you're an engineer. You've studied math. That's
yeah, but but I never practiced it. I still need one course to get my degree. I still need to pass one more course to get my degree.
Do you think you want to do that someday?
It's the only reason I will do it is I don't like unfinished business. Nothing more.
Yeah, yeah, you don't need it. Yeah.
And still I don't want to sacrifice all the hours and days that I lost studying for this, just for one course.
Is there any kind of combination that you see between math and drumming for you that you use at all, or are you really into like bands like Tool or like Dream Theater, all these crazy like math bands?
To be completely honest, I was really a hater of progressive metal. Of course, but as year passes, Tool has become one of my favorite bands in my in my early 30s. When I was in my 20s, in my mind was that I want simple rock. I want the 70s kind of drumming, and this is what I love to hear. But for me, Tool is now one of my favorite bands for sure. Dream Theater is too tiring for me. I get really tired, listening to them. I love Rush for sure, and I was loving them since my early rock listening. But in general, me personally, I have my mind is kind of mathematical mind, but this made me not be able to think a lot out of the box learning music. So, I wanted to be everything, almost quantized in my mind. And the only thing that helped me with math is understanding how you can have 16 notes in a field and grouping in 3 or 7 or 5 and add them to have 16 total. This was the only thing that math helped me with drumming.
Yeah, it's not the numbers aren't that big. You just got to count to 4 over and over. 16 sometimes, with if you're doing 16th notes. Totally makes sense. Let's talk about the band a little bit. So Donnie is like, great singer. His voice is just like, and you don't hear voices like that often anymore. I feel like he's got just a perfect rock voice. How does he write the lyrics? How do you guys write the songs together? What's your mentality for making your music?
For many years, our songs were like 90% based on jamming in the studio. We were going in my vacation house and for a whole weekend, from Friday till Sunday night, and jamming total like every time like 15 to 20 hours in 3 days. So a lot of ideas were coming from jamming, and at the same time we have lost so much music that we created that nobody was remembering the riff the next day, or losing a nice solo or a nice idea on the drums. But this was the main way let's say the main way to have new ideas and then take the idea and make a song out of it. Usually it was not that the first, especially in the beginning of the band, we had a lot of jammy songs. This was because this was the main way to compose them. But every time we're focusing then on a specific idea and take it from the jam and create a kind of more, let's say, a structure, a more define the final structure. The last years, like from a repeated exposure to and towards today, we are like 50% jamming and 50% somebody brings an idea already, or maybe almost a structure, and then we take it, we jam it. Of course, we try to find other paths or create some riffs that or drum tracks that support or make it better. And this is now, we are between ideas that come to a person, to a guitarist, let's say, in his home, and he bring it to the studio, and ideas that are getting born in the studio, real time.
Yeah. When you guys were first kind of, making your music and all that stuff, did you really like your music when you first thought, or were you like, oh man, we need to get better? Was there something there that you saw in the other guys that you're like, this could be really incredible? Did you?
No.
No. All right.
No, we're just having fun, man. And I think maybe this was I think this was the main reason to not focus so much on, I see a lot of people starting a band and want everything to be perfect. They care so much about the photo shoot, the cover, the whatever happens, that they actually lose the fun of playing music. And of course, we wanted to have the best cover. We wanted to have the best, support all around music. But our main thing was go to the studio or my home back then and jam for 10 hours. And this was what we liked the most. And since then, I think, of course, as you get bigger and you have to have every detail as good as possible. I think after that, as we started touring more, we understood that now everybody, and me personally for sure, I have also to get better at my instrument. This is what we have focused more in the last years. But still, I think even if we had the best reactions for the debut album or the second album or whatever, still we never had the idea, oh, this is something that will make the world minds explode or whatever. We never felt like this.
That's good. So for touring, I mean, so your first European tours, I guess you guys have been to Germany a decent amount, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about the German music scene? What was, I guess, any parts of Europe that kind of stuck out to you in the music scene, and how did people greet you, and any and all thoughts you have on that?
Especially German European, the German scene in the late, let's say, zeros and early tens, they were kind of the pioneers of heavy rock music coming back. From the 90s, it was only Germany. There were started like Color Haze or some Savants experiment, starting again, bringing this kind of sound and make it an underground scene, but with a lot of people, with some kind of good following. And for us, Germany was since the first tour in 2011, it was the main market, let's say, to go and play some shows, because there was already a good scene getting born there. But I think Europe, especially from 11, 12, and afterwards, had become the main market for this kind of music. A lot of US bands were they wanted only to come to Europe and play shows, because in USA it was not so common to play heavy rock again and stoner rock. And after Germany, France got really big. Of course, Scandinavian countries got really big. Switzerland even had a great scene. So yeah, Poland, Greece, Balkans are getting really, really big in this kind of music. We played in Balkans shows with 800 people, 700 people, which is not so common to do it in Germany or for sure in USA or whatever. So yeah, I think for us, being able to start touring in Europe and continue go year after year and play as many cities as we could helped us a lot become bigger and bring more people to to listen to our music and have new fans all around Europe.
Yeah. So you've also been to the US once. How was that experience? Twice. You've been twice.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think of the US? I'm always curious to see people from other countries. Like what was the experience like for you?
I will be completely honest. The fans are amazing. They really support musicians. They feel that we do something completely out of their mind, something really big that we, try to come from Greece to visit USA and play their show. And we feel really grateful having met so many good fans that want us to stay at the place. They were buying all the merchandise. They knew everything about the band, and for us was really out of our mind. The first US tour was like we didn't expect so many people to care, about us. On the other hand, regarding the promoters and the venues and the production, it's far, far, far behind Europe because they don't care about you at all. There are venues that maybe they have like 300 or 350 shows per year. So they don't care who you are. They don't care from where you're coming from. They don't care at all. They give you 3 tickets for beer and good night. This is it, in Europe, promoters are, most of the promoters, the small promoters used to be just fans of the bands that they were inviting them to play their city. They would sleep them at their home, cook dinner for them, bringing some booze, etc. They were doing for the hospitality was from the heart. And in USA, it was not like this. This is the main difference.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Yeah, venues don't really care about people. Yeah, it's like here's your 2 drink tickets, then there you have a good night, and if you don't make enough money for them, they get pissed off, and that's
Exactly.
the vibe.
Exactly.
What'd you think of the food here? What are your stark differences? Have you had Greek food in the US, and what'd you think?
I'm not sure I've tried Greek food in the USA. We are big fans of American food. I mean, our Western civilization is really, really influenced from USA culture in everything, from movies and music to food and everyday way of living. But at the same time, USA can provide some really, really good quality food, and at the same time, they can provide the shittiest junk food that you can find. And usually, this is the cheapest as well. I mean, to eat something that is at the same time tasty and it will not fuck your health, you have to pay a lot in USA. In Greece, it's completely the opposite. You still can find cheap, good food, and all the kind of junk is kind of more expensive.
Yeah, you nailed it. That's spot on. And it's unfortunate, but that is our reality.
Man, we were really surprised that that being poor in USA, meaning that usually you eat the shittiest things, and usually you are getting obese and you are unhealthy due to eating bad food because the cheap food is the bad food.
Yeah, and everything's so expensive now. Everything's just getting more and more expensive, and that's just how it goes. So it's hard to eat healthy all the time, but it feels good when you do.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of going back onto music a little bit. Is your band fans of like philosophy? Is that kind of and like thinkers and all that stuff? Because on the song "Reverb of the World," you have a Carl Sagan quote. And it's a really rad song too. Right at the end of Vultures, your 2014 album. What's the idea of that in the band? What was the idea for doing that?
First of all, George is the biggest fan of philosophy, but he's the biggest fan from anthropological kind of philosophy, Me personally, I'm I'm more in this kind of science and astronomy and where we come from and if we are not alone, all these kind of things. That for me, Carl Sagan was one of my early heroes when I found out about him, because I never had the Cosmos in the Greek television or whatever. When I found about him, I was really obsessed with watching his series and reading his quotes and reading also some books of his. And this was one of when we were playing this space rock kind of song, the Reverb of the New World. I had in my mind that it would be a nice idea to start with this kind of quote, which I really love. And we said, for fun, let's do it, and it worked.
Oh yeah. I mean that's super cool. I mean you guys were basically kind of like a stoner rock band. I just have to ask, like, what how hard was it for you guys to get weed back in the day when you were first growing up as kids? Or when did you start getting into like all this sort of weird stuff?
Are you ready to listen to the most mind-blowing story? I was listening to Caius like 3 or 4 years before even I tried first time weed. So we were listening to stoner rock without getting stoned and without being in this kind of way of living. I think I first I tried when I was already around my 20s, and it was really difficult to find good quality for sure. Although Greece is well known because we have a really perfect climate to grow weed. It's really well known for Greek weed, but it's not. No one has found it. We smoke. We were back in the day. It was usually cheap, bad quality weed for almost everyone. Of course, as the year passed and technology became, and internet became the best way to learn things and have more infos, etc. Hydroponics have been, the main thing that happened in Athens, and you can find some good quality buds.
Hey, so you didn't do it till your 20s, but you were listening to all these stoner bands when you were like kids. I love that. By the way, we just interviewed Brant Bjork from Caius. He was
Nice.
our last interview, and that was pretty wild. I can't wait for it to come out. But yeah, he talks about the desert, the desert scene. And it's really cool because you guys are building your scene and putting Greece on the map for the rock. And it's such a cool thing to see. And like you guys are passionate about it, and that's what I absolutely love. And it really transfers in your music.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just had to mention the weed because I've never.
Brant Bjork was actually our first big support that we did in Athens.
Oh, cool.
Some a collective called Spinaloga Records. Back in the day, they were releasing some compilations from Greek bands, and they booked Brant Bjork and the Bros. I think it was 2007 or 2008. I'm not sure. And they offered us the support slot, and we were like so much excited playing with Brant Bjork. And I think this was one of his best lineups back in 2008. The whole club was sold out, and everybody couldn't believe that we were having some nice psychedelic and at the same time rock and roll vibe with his music.
Yeah, I think he's really excellent at doing psychedelic and rock and kind of making it his own thing. He's a really cool, very smart, interesting dude too. He also smokes a lot of weed. He's way more than I can ever. So you guys, I mean, what's next for you guys? You guys in the studio? You guys recording? You're gonna be playing some shows soon. I know that.
At the moment, we are getting started. We are getting ready for our big USA tour, North America, because we are going to play also 5 shows in Canada and 1 in Mexico City, and like 36, I think, in USA. This is going to be a really tough one. This was already really tough to acquire the visas again and do all the logistics. And because we are a DIY and we do everything by ourselves, it was one of the hardest things that we have planned ever. but hopefully we acquired the visa yesterday and we fly next Monday. And we really can't wait for this because it's going to be really big, really tiring, but I think it's going to be really rewarding being able to play in so many different cities and visit again cities that we haven't visited since 2018.
Yeah, it must be exciting. Also, it must have been pretty stressful just to get your visa just right before you had to leave.
Man, it was right. I started the whole paperwork since last March, and the first papers were approved like middle of June, and I did believe that it would be smooth and okay, but having a flight in 10 days and don't know even if you are going to be approved, your visa being granted or not, it's really stressful. And having spent of course so much fucking money and not being sure if you are going to even recoup it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the gamble right there. But hopefully everybody sees your shows, everybody goes out and supports as they should. We cannot wait to see you Friday, September 15th. We're going to DesertFest. That's going to be a great show, and there's a big buzz around the city, and like it's just a great time. I just have a few more questions for you. Thanks for taking the time to do this. And this is something I like to ask every artist that comes on. What do you do when you kind of feel like you aren't good enough? When you things are going rough, what kind of keeps you going, and what do you tell yourself or your bandmates when things are tough?
I personally sometimes I prefer to put logic in front and take all my emotions away because I know that it can be really really stressful and make you take the worst decision, being so much bombarded by your emotions, and I tend to gravitate towards to a more simple solution and take things step by step, rather being in a whole mess, arguing with the rest of the band, being the whole time in a bad mood and trying to. I try not to whine so much and trying to find solutions instead.
Yeah, and that's and that. Have you ever kind of felt like have you ever felt like quitting, or is there ever a time where you're having a rough time with the band? You guys have been a band for so long and you've known each other for so long. What do you think what do you think has kept you guys together so well and kept you all on the same page?
I think the main reason is that we have the same goal. We we know each other so good, but of course, being on tour so many days per year, we have been there have been years that were mostly out of our home. Most of the times in a year we're not home, and we're together in the same van, in the same hotel, in the same backstage, in the same stage, whatever. This brings a lot of traction and a lot of problems, and you get tired not having your personal time, having people whining or people doing their own thing, not supporting the team, etc. Also with a lot of colleagues, not only the band members, the crew, etc. who have had really hard times. But at the end of the day, I think when you are on stage and if also the audience enjoys what you do, it gives you much more energy. And when you get out of stage, it's like having done meditation, exercise, whatever calms you down, all at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good call. What is your idea of success?
I don't know. First of all, I don't feel successful. I think all of us, we don't feel successful or whatever. We play rock and roll. We love what we do. We do it out of love of our music as fans and as players. And we are really really lucky that people enjoy also what we enjoy to do. Maybe maybe this is what success is for us, that we continue to do what we want to do, what we love to do. No one says us what we have to do. We do what we do what we want, and still there are people that support us and enjoy our music and how we manage to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that answer. Well, Labros, this has been super fun. What do you have to say to anybody listening, any of the fans out there? What do you want to promote? What do you want to let them know? This is your time.
I want to let everybody know that we are coming in USA after 4 years, and after COVID, finally, that we are able to visit again US, and we really cannot wait to go all these places and meet all these new people. And for sure, this is going to be a great experience, live-wise, but also, people-wise, that we are gonna meet other bands that we know them for many years, fans that have know them for 5-6 years now, and we really cannot wait for this.
Love it. Well, this has been the Zen Perry Project with Labros from 1000 Mods. Hey, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been super
Thank you,
fun.
man. It was great.
Cannot wait to see you. Give you a fist bump, maybe buy you a Mythos beer, a little something from Greece.
This is what I have to say. It's that it's not even in my list of top 5 Greek beers.
This is the only one we could get.
I know. And this is most of foreigners. I mean, maybe it's the only beer that the foreigners know, from Greece.
Yeah, I bet. I bet they just only put out the worst. Yeah.
Also, not big fans of Ouzo as well. We don't drink Ouzo at all.
Oh, hey, also good to know. Well, next time we have Greek people over, we'll make sure to get the good stuff.
Nice one.
Hey, thank you so much. You have a great rest of your day, all right?
You too, man. Enjoy. See you soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Have a good one. Bye.